Welcome to week 3 of the journey. And this week's conscious response is, I choose to respond. We want to respond rather than react, and this has been mentioned many times already. Things that upset us are messengers. And if we're present, we'll identify the importance of the message, and not shoot the messenger. Since the upsetting experience is the message and not the person, place, or thing that upset us. These are the reflections of our unintegrated emotional charge. We don't blame a mirror for what it reflects, though we may react to it as if the reflection is real. Doing so, well, it's a form of insanity. Give your attention to how the upset makes you feel. Then you can respond to the message rather than just react to the trigger. When we're emotionally triggered, but are present in the here and now, we can ask ourselves how the triggering event is impacting us on a level of felt perception. And the answer will come in the form of a feeling and not a mental description. Coming to see and feel this, it becomes clear why verbal therapies fail to have an impact on the cause of our discomfort. A therapist may ask you how something makes you feel, then want you to respond to the question verbally, which is a mental exercise, and then they'll hope you come to some understanding. But again, this is a mental understanding made with your mind. But the correct answer is in the feeling, without having to turn it into a story. So we've come to know now that what we feel doesn't have to be turned into a story, it doesn't have to be verbalized. We know we've received the message. And when we feel something in our body, this will confirm that we've received the message, in some physical way. You may have an increased heart rate, you may blush, you may tense up. But when you receive this message, the next step is to ask yourself, when did you experience this before? And you may not get an immediate answer, but just be open to it, remain open to getting an answer. It'll come, for you when the time is right. Because there are probably a lot of previous occurrences that were very similar. And it's a reoccurring pattern that likely goes back to and started in your childhood. Also be aware that the way the message comes to you, the physical circumstances triggering this particular emotion, triggering this particular emotional reaction, may not always be terribly similar to the original pattern or the original episode. So focus on the similarity of the emotional reaction and not so much on the physical circumstance that brought it on. Try this. Since our core emotional charges repeat about every 7 years, it can be helpful to ask how an emotional charge surfaced during that period. This may help reveal the initial childhood experience involved. To some extent, everyone lives life as some sort of continual reaction. Living in time, our past and our projected future creates for us an ongoing experience. We're unconsciously living out what is a pre-written drama. Start taking cues from what's going on now and not reacting from what has happened in the past. or what might happen in the future. Focus on the messages, not so much the messengers. Choose to respond to the present and lose that impulse to automatically react, and you'll gain some insight into your behavior patterns. When we get the message and are able to see that everything that creates a charged, uncomfortable emotional experience is a recurring pattern that is anchored in our past and our childhood experiences, and resurfaces unconsciously. When we see that, we can bring it into our consciousness. And when we can be conscious of it as it's happening, or soon after, we get so that we can see messages coming from a mile away. You can catch yourselves before reacting. When we come to the understanding that the way we've been triggered and the emotional reactions we've felt have nothing to do with our adult experience, and that they are our childhood leaking unconsciously into our adult experience, and we've been suppressing them for years. Now, when we see an external circumstance surfacing as a trigger, and when we are consciously aware of it, we can now just be with it and feel the emotions unconditionally. This process, this journey, it allows us to mature emotionally. And instead of reacting, we begin to respond. And because we respond, we have a choice, and we choose not to be triggered. Remember, it's the experience that's important. The mental information about past triggering events is secondary. The answers we're looking for are in the experience, the feelings that correspond to our current upset. The past is the past. It no longer exists, and we can't go back. But these triggers, and these reactions continue to exist. They exist within us. So we can't go back. So we go in. We go inward. And we journey inward where all the answers are.